I recorded a super peppy and upbeat update video yesterday all about what had been going on while I was here and what I was planning for later. But the more the day went on, the less peppy and upbeat I felt. And the more news I watched, the less sure I was of anything. COVID started blowing my life up for me. I took that little ember and finished the job so that I could build something fresh and different. And I knew that before I took off on that adventure that I wanted to reconnect with my roots before I spread my wings and did exactly what I wanted to do. I don't know if what's been happening for the Asian community had anything to do with that decision, or if it's just because I'm older and my great-grandmother died and my family is all trying to come to terms with what that means. But it became really important to me. And when I watched the news yesterday, I realized it's more important than ever for me to embrace those parts of myself that I've always tried to minimize and that I was so successful at I completely forgot about. I tend to start in the middle of a story because I kind of assume we're all on the same page and everybody knows the background and where people are coming from, and I realized that there are a lot of people in my life that don't have any idea what it's like to not be a white heterosexual person in the world, or that they have no idea what it means to be marginalized and to have to take extra steps that other people don't. And while I by no means am an expert on being an Asian woman in this world, I've already admitted that I am a terrible Vietnamese person and I am trying to be better. I at least have some idea of why everybody is angry and upset, and if you don't, then maybe I should start at the beginning for you. I had a really long conversation with my mom last night about her experience and why she is a fractured Vietnamese in that she doesn't quite fit in with the old school Vietnamese. She's definitely not quite new school. She's not quite white. She just never felt comfortable in any collection of people. That's usually an experience that mixed children have, but my siblings and I have always just identified as white, and we didn't experience that cultural fracture. She called me and my brother passably white, and we both laughed at her like, no one would ever think we're white. What are you talking about? And she was like, you always fit in with white kids, so you never even tried to fit in with Asian kids, and you at heart are just white. And I guess that's true. I am probably one of the biggest bananas you know, in that I'm yellow on the outside and pretty white on the inside. I didn't realize that what made me different from my friends was my Asianness until I lived with other Asian girls my senior year of college, and I was like, oh, we share the same values, our priorities are the same, we do come from very similar things that all these other friends don't understand. That's an Asian thing. That's not a, that's my family thing, or that's what my mom decided needed to happen. Those shared experiences are things that I think people talk about as being model minorities, in that, you know, education comes first and we work really hard and we try to build a better life for the people around us. We would do anything for a person in need. We cannot stand to watch other people be hurt. We have very strong beliefs in justice and doing what's right and honoring our elders. And when you ask a person why they had such a hard time with friends and family voting one way or the other in the last election, it was because we watched all of these people decide that racism was okay, that it was okay to take away the rights of gay people, of transgender people, that Black lives still don't matter as much as white lives, and that it was okay that our president said things like Kung flu and China virus and the Wuhan disease, and that they didn't see the inherent danger in rhetoric like that and what could happen. People just decided that that was something they could live with because the economy was booming, or that we were swearing in conservative judges. And I am not a particularly political person. I'm really not even as crazy liberal as I may seem. My line in the sand is equal rights for humanity. You made us stand up every day and pledge allegiance, saying that we were going to be one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if that's not what we stand for, what is? And I by no means am an expert on the Asian experience. If you put me in a room full of white people and Asian people, I would gravitate towards the white people. If you ask me how to greet a distant relative, I would have no idea. I realize that I am privileged. I grew up under a working single mom. I didn't know I was underprivileged growing up, and we are very comfortably middle class now. But we all have whatever baggage it is that shapes who we are and makes us into the people that we become. And I don't identify as white or Asian. If you ask me how I think of myself, I think that I'm, the squeaky-voiced, helpful girl who just wants to be dependable and accountable and the person that is there for the people that they care about. Those are the identities that I carry with me that I want to share with the world. But as I'm sitting here trying to reconnect with the parts of myself that I have suppressed and minimized and reduced until I have forgotten them completely, I think it's important that I take a second to celebrate the fact that those values and the things that come from my Asianness make me a good human, and they make me a good person, and they give me empathy for other people and what they're going through. And if you ask an Asian person why they are so hurt about what they're seeing, it's because there's two big problems. It is no longer safe to be anything but a straight white man in America. My mom's been begging me to take self-defense classes my whole life, that she's tried to teach me what it's like to be a woman working in the world, to walk down the street and to look out for yourself. I spend a lot of time alone, and the only way to do that is to be smart about it, and to know that elderly Asian people can't take a walk down the street, and young Asian women can't go to work for fear of some lunatic coming after them, is a problem unto itself. But the fact that those people don't deserve the same rhetoric that a group of white people had been gunned down at work would receive is so heart-wrenching and crushing to a whole community of people who watched the president say that it's okay to blame them for something that is entirely not their fault. We are just as affected. COVID blew up my life. It gave me the opportunity to create a new and better one, but it wrecked everything that I'd been building. It took people that I love. It affects all of us the same, no matter what color skin we have, but people of color are affected far worse. Black people and Hispanic people die at much higher rates than white people. Asian people are being attacked in the street. Everybody's losing jobs and loved ones. Like, we're all affected by COVID. It is by no means excusable by being at the end of your rope and having a bad day that you can go and kill a whole bunch of people. We're upset because if it wasn't a white person that did that, the language would be entirely different. Language matters. Music matters. To me, I built my whole life around it. Finding the words to communicate the human experience and connect all of these things that happen to all of us is so important to me. I'm wanting to transition into writing because words matter. So I feel like if no one else, if you don't understand why people are angry, this should be called what it is. By every term of the definition, what happened yesterday was a hate crime. What happened yesterday was an act of domestic terrorism. It was by no means just a guy who had a bad day and let off some steam with a gun. The fact that an elected government official could minimize what happened for an entire community of people is unacceptable. And that's why we can't even fathom the world that we're living in, and our hearts are so broken because we shouldn't have to defend something that is black and white. There is no room for any sort of interpretation about what happened yesterday. Are we supposed to clap for the perpetrator that he turned himself in? No, he killed a whole bunch of Asian women because he can't control himself? No. So as I sit here trying to figure out my plan as a bi-coastal resident who spends months in New York and months in California and travels in between in this new life that I want to build for myself, the places where I want to spend time, I'm not safe. Will I let that stop me from doing it? No. But does it make it okay for me to just sit by silently and freak out about it and not even attempt to explain why I barely cried when I closed down everything that I'd been building for 18 years. But I haven't been able to stop crying for 2 days because I don't understand how you could erase an experience for all of these people. That what we're scared of isn't real. You're taking away our ability to vocalize that what's happening to us is real. During Black Lives Matter, we already struggled with the model minority situation and how unfair it was that we are also people of color, but the worst thing that happens is you assume that we're a bad driver, or you ask us annoying questions like, what are you, or where are you from? Or that, you know, we're good at math and good at music. Like, it's not fair that people assume better for us and then just feel like it's okay to kill people that are just a little darker than we are. There's already one thing to process. Is an entirely other thing to process that people can be gunned down in their beds and stabbed in the streets and ignored because they're not white. And if you can't empathize and see that, you need to look deep down in your heart and figure out why. It's not my job or responsibility to teach it to you. But I know that I'm one of the only Asian friends a lot of my loved ones have, that I chose to live a life where most of my friends live very white, non-diverse lives, and that's totally okay. You know, it's not a role I ever thought I would take. I've spoken before about knowing that I know what it's like to be the only not white person in a room, but I don't know what it's like to be scared of that, and that is no longer true. And that's not okay with me, and it shouldn't be okay with you. And while I have no plans to have children of my own, I have every plan to make the world a better place for your kids. And I think that you should want that too. And if you can't find a way to look beyond what's good for you, instead of making your line in the sand equal rights for everyone and making the world a safer place, then we have a much more serious problem than we think. And all of your hurt Asian friends, we're not asking you to fix it for us. We're just asking you to believe that this hurts in a way that we've never experienced before. Because yes, racism has happened since we got here, but it's never felt this bad. It's never been this visual. It's never been this okay. And all the fears that we had with Trump going in and potentially staying are coming true. And you're watching white supremacists explode everything that America stands for, and people are just standing by watching, just like they stood by and watched old Asian people get pushed down in the street. And we need you to do more. We need to do this together because we can't fix it on our own. I have no idea how we fix it. I don't know what the tools and resources are, but I'm here and I'm trying to figure out how to be a better Vietnamese, and I will figure out how to be a better Asian, and I will figure out how to not minimize who I am, but to use it to make the world better. And I think that if everybody could try that, we maybe wouldn't be feeling this way forever. So, as much as I want to give you a nice happy update, I got my first dose of the vaccine. I am starting to make my plans for migration. Things are moving ahead. It feels good to be home. My grandma is retired from the Austin Police Department, but her whole job was as an Asian community liaison to try to make Asian people feel comfortable using the Austin Police Department to get help, because by nature we sweep things under the rug and we don't ask for help and we don't talk about it and we just buckle down and get it done. And that's not always the way to go. And so, as my grandmother's daughter, I'm asking for you to please not make us do this alone, because we shouldn't have to. And so while I'm here, and I guess until it's fixed, that's something to add to my wish list on this crazy adventure. And while I am scared, it's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. It never has, and it's going to continue that way. So there's your update for this week. If anybody has any suggestions on resources or things that I should read or look at to try to start helping, I am all ears. And yeah, this was not what I expected, but I guess what we needed. So thank you.